Modern animism makes the oldest spiritual belief easy for today's seekers to understand, practice, and live. Stay tuned and grow with us. Hey everybody, I hope you're staying warm and dry out there. Winter is not playing this year. And I appreciate you taking a moment out of your day to check in with Modern Animism Radio as I share a bit about the Earth's chakras. In today's episode, I will talk about the Earth's chakra system and what it's like to experience some of them. I hope it gets you curious enough to investigate either the chakra system of your own body or that of the Earth. Before we do that, though, you know the drill. Let's take a moment to tune in and acknowledge the elements that are the foundation of everything and give gratitude. Acknowledge the presence and the power of Earth, the physical realm that gives us food, our bodies, plants, animals, minerals, and all the sensuous things that make life possible and pleasurable. Thank you, Earth. Acknowledge the ever-presence of air and give gratitude for your soft breezes that cool us and the fierce storms that create change, the whispers from across the veil and the inspiration that comes from within and without. Thank you, air. Acknowledge the element of fire and share my gratitude for your passion, motivation, action, and impulsivity that can turn ideas into magnificent achievements. You make life fun. Thank you, fire. Acknowledge the element of water and give gratitude for the way that you teach me how to flow with the current of life. Thank you for showing me softeners, adaptability, nurturing, and strength to go into deep, dark places. Thank you, water. I give gratitude to our plant, animal, mineral, human, and spirit ancestors who support our journey in ways that are seen and unseen. Kindly continue to guide us, even though we may be hard-headed and don't hear or ignore your loving support. Thank you. And I thank all of you for being here for all these years. It's wonderful to have a community out there who values animism enough to keep asking questions, sharing the content, reviewing, and donating. There is a resurgence in animism, apparently, and you could get your information anywhere. And I know that I'm not the loudest or the most woo-woo out there, but I'm not a Johnny-come-lately to animism. I was born into it, and I have my feet on the ground, and that might not be the sexiest thing, but I can say with very strong certainty that whether I'm sharing it or not, this will be my path until I exit this place. It's not a fad or a business. In fact, I'm not selling a thing. I do take donations, though, at buymeacoffee.com, but the content is free to everyone. I have a free and paid group for anyone who wants to share their authentic walk through life with others in a safe, come-as-you-are space, but it's not the least bit salesy. There's no 4-step plan to enlightenment or any ascension training. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just have a greater trust that you can be your own guru. Nature's a fantastic teacher, and you will find your way in your own time. Anyway, I was talking about the earth chakras, right? So what is that? To be honest, I am way more familiar with the Chinese system of energy, but the chakra is a Sanskrit word that means wheel. They are spinning wheels of energy that exist in the human body and in earth of various colors, vibrations, and energies that are balanced when life is harmonious. In the body, they reflect our physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness. The idea of chakras were documented around 1700 years ago, but I think it's a lot older than that. Certainly the Chinese identified that we have rivers of energy in the body, and that that knowledge of energy is at least 3,000 years old. So this is not something new or new age information. There are more than 7 chakras, but I'm going to stick to those 7. And the first one is red. It's at the base of the spine, and it deals with things related to survival, self-preservation, and grounding. When healthy, the root is stable, secure, primal, instinctive, spontaneous, active, and courageous. And this makes sense, doesn't it? It's hard to build anything sustainable unless we have roots, a firm foundation. This is why, even though the sacred wheel is a circle that has no beginning and no end, I start with earth. It gives me that firm foundation. And the phrase for the root chakra is I have. In the body, the root chakra is related to the base of the spine, the kidneys, bladder, colon, legs, and blood. In Chinese medicine, the kidneys and bladder have to do with fear, and this makes sense, doesn't it? If I live in fear, I'm not stable. I probably have an imbalance in my root chakra. While this is not always true that one system will work within another, there's a lot of crossover with the chakra system and Chinese medicine. If you're out of balance, my suggestion is you start there and work up. There's no point in having a wide open third eye if you can't consistently do self-care or regulate your emotions. We live in our bodies. This is our house. Got to take care of that foundation first. Okay, so going up from there is orange. That's the sacral chakra located in the lower abdomen, and the colors are different because the vibrations are different. The sacral chakra is this energy of I feel. It's sensuality, passion, procreation, vitality, pleasure, self-esteem, self-worth, optimism, enthusiasm, hospitality, tolerance, and family-oriented. In the body, it corresponds to the reproductive organs, the genitals, the prostate, and spleen. As we go up the body, we meet the yellow chakra at the solar plexus in the upper abdomen. And the phrase for this one is I can. It's the energy of logic, humor, efficiency, and organization. It's warm, radiant, flexible, self-aware, and powerful. This energy is all about self-control and personal power when it's healthy. It's joy and ego. And the body parts that correspond with the solar plexus chakra are the stomach, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. If you've ever heard of color therapy, this is the idea that brings colors into your environment that can change the energy around you. If you have issues with joy or flexibility, it might be a good idea to wear yellow clothes, yellow-colored lenses in your glasses, or paint your space yellow. Seriously, it works. My office space is yellow, and it's very cheerful. The heart is in the middle of the 7 chakras, and it's green, and the phrase, not surprisingly, is I love. Green is the energy of compassion, openness, unconditional love, forgiveness, acceptance, contentment, nurturing, generosity, harmony, and assertiveness. The heart chakra is a heart healer and can help to lessen the feelings of loss. I don't think I have to say that the heart corresponds to the heart, right? It's obvious. It's also the circulatory system, the hands and the arms. And I have a friend who always has problems with her hands. Do you think her heart energy is out of balance? Yeah, I guess so. The next chakra is at the throat, and it's blue, and this is another obvious one. It's about communication, integrity, honesty, and speaking your truth, emotions, reliability, gentleness, loyalty, and expression through all mediums, so not just spoken. So it could be dance, music, art, or poetry, or any type of written communication. The body parts associated with the throat are the thyroid, parathyroid, lungs, and mouth, and the phrase for the throat chakra is I speak. If you're into crystals and you think about the blue ones, that's that energy too, right? Blue apatite, azurite, chrysocolla, kyanite, and chalcedony are great for the throat chakra and communication. The third eye chakra is located between the eyes. It's bluish purple or indigo and has the phrase I see. This energy is about inspiration, focus, concentration, insight, imagination, devotion, clarity, wisdom, rationality, and peace of mind. The body parts that correspond to the third eye are the pituitary gland, the left eye, sinus, nose, and eyes. The last of the 7 chakras is located at the top of the head, and it's violet. The phrase for this one is I know. This energy is associated with the right eye, pineal gland, cerebral cortex, central nervous system, and upper brain function. The energy of this one is about universal love, spiritual motivation, divine wisdom, selflessness, and spiritual understanding. If you think of it like a pyramid, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most of us can only think about the upper ones once we've sorted out the lower ones because of priorities. If you want to experiment with color therapy or use colors to see what the impact they have on your energy body or chakras, get some colored glasses. They're really trippy and do have an impact on how the world looks and feels. Or let's say that you have a job interview or going on a date with a new person and you really want to make a good impression. You might slip some blue glasses on before you go or wear a blue bracelet to give you some good juju. In fact, I used to wear a blue choker whenever I was doing a podcast prep to stay clear-headed and keep on track. Anyway, there's a Hermetic saying, as within, so without, and as above, so below. It's a reflection that what you see outside of you is also within. and that what you see in the heavens is also here on Earth. So it's no wonder that the Earth has chakras just like we do. The root is out Mount Shasta in California. Mount Shasta is a tiny town that has a lot of metaphysical shops. There's a lot of hipsters and tourists, but there's only like 3,300 permanent residents. So when I say it's tiny, think like very, very small. It's a sacred place to Native Americans, as are most mountains, but this one is like the Holy of Holies. Most people have heard of Atlantis. We know that it was a landmass that was wiped out by a flood, and that there were people who were technologically advanced. Well, the Lemurians were another ancient people who were highly spiritual and earth-loving, and they were also wiped out by a flood. But the legend says that some of these survived by going underground, and it is said that they still live underground in a city called Telos in Mount Shasta. Yeah. And Mount Shasta is a volcano with lots of these lava tubes underground, so who knows, maybe. Mount Shasta is also Bigfoot country. The Native Americans had legends about this since before the settlers came. And I heard this story a long time ago about this guy who said he was on Mount Shasta, and out of nowhere he smelled this really rank scent. I heard this booming, out-of-the-world voice screaming, and it sounded like a freight train was coming through the woods towards him. Just as it would have been upon him, it disappeared. And this is the type of energy that Mount Shasta has. It's mysterious. It would not be unusual to pass a crowd of people playing singing bowls if you're hiking up Panther Falls in the Mount Shasta area. And then seeing some people trying to call to aliens with the CE5 protocol. Mount Shasta has a lot of UFO activity. When it comes to high strangeness, Mount Shasta is definitely at the top of the list. It has a really different feel from any place I've ever been, and I think part of that comes from the weather. The volcano creates its own weather because of the height of the mountain and the steepness and the heat from the volcano. And as we were going up, it was like this very discernible shift. We're in the energy of the mountain, now we're not. In Glastonbury, the energy of the chakra is huge. It's flat and it spreads out, but it wasn't like this in Shasta. It's just around the mountain. And at the bottom of the mountain, it was comfortable. As you went up, it got colder and harsher and fierce. But at the same time, there was something really comfortable too. The landscape is just different. You have to feel it to understand. For the native people in the area, the Creator lived there. In my opinion, sacred places are not places where people are meant to live. They visit, they do their pilgrimages or rituals, and then they leave. The energy is just too intense to stay for long periods of time, and the air feels really weird up on the mountain. We were there for a retreat. We did a few rituals and had some paranormal experience, and the energy for me was unsettling. It was like there are a lot of different energies happening all at once, and I can't say that I felt grounded there, but I didn't feel ungrounded either. I will say that I think Shasta is special, and I would go back again. Okay, so the sacral chakra is at Lake Titicaca. These places are not the easiest to get to. Mount Shasta is not near a major airport. You either have to drive 4 hours from Sacramento or fly into a dinky little airport that's closer, but then you spend all this time waiting for your connection flight to get there. Same with Lake Titicaca. You really have to want to be at Lake Titicaca to come here. It's at 12,500 feet. So you fly somewhere close, stay there to get acclimated to the altitude, and then come to Lake Titicaca because that's a gigantic leap on your body. And it's in the middle of nowhere between Peru and Bolivia. So be prepared to get sick because that altitude is no joke. The energy is also a big shift, so that can make you sick as well. I've seen lots of people purge or just not feel right for a few days when they come into contact with the strong energies of sacred places in general, or earth chakras in particular. I've even had it happen to me the first time I went to Upper Egypt. It didn't happen at the pyramids, but I'll talk about Giza pyramids later because that's one of the earth chakras too. For now, let's talk about Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca is like Mount Shasta in that there's a lot of spooky lore associated with it. First, there's the aliens. Yeah. There are many stories about alien spacecraft being seen in the night sky that just fly into the lake and disappear. And this is not a shallow little pond. Lake Titicaca covers over 3,200 miles, and it's 50 miles across at the widest point and averages between 420 and 600 feet deep. It's absolutely enormous. There are 41 islands in the lake, and I don't think that counts the man-made floating island, so it's huge. And there are temples on the islands. The Sun Temple and the Moon Temple are the most famous ones. There's also sunken temples found at the lake bottom, and another famous one at Tiwanaku in Bolivia. No, there are more temples than that, because we went to the temples of Pachamama and Pachacata on the Sun Island. So it's been a sacred place for a long time by many different people who have come and gone. And as you know, the sunken island might not actually be sunken. Maybe it was an underwater city for creatures who lived under the water. The Incan creation myth says that the god Viracocha came from underneath the water, bringing some humans with him. After commanding the sun and moon and stars to rise, he made more humans from stone and brought them to life. He then told them to go out and make more people. So there are similarities in creation myths from different cultures. When I brought a group here, we went from Puno, Peru, and Lake Titicaca borders Peru and Bolivia, so you can come from either way. And long ago, part of Puno was underneath the water at the bottom of Lake Titicaca, and it's now land. And this area looks like it's from another planet. The color of the rock is very red, and it feels like the magnetic energy here is really strong, maybe, or off, or something. I had a hard time standing up there. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I was dizzy, my balance was off, and I felt like I needed to crawl rather than to stand upright. I don't know what was going on, but it was definitely different. And I can't say whether it was positive or negative. It didn't really feel very good, but one of the people in my group was singing and laughing, and which is not in character for her, and she was really happy. So for her, it felt uplifting and positive. The floating islands are beautiful. The people are kind and hospitable. It's a lovely place to be. They really showed us a good time. And nature is in the extreme here. You have the high altitude, which makes the air so dry and you suck it in like it's gold. And the earth is so high in the mountains, and walking's not easy because it's so steep. So earth is all around you. And then the sun is very strong, so you can't get away from the fire. And of course, it's a lake, so there's water always there too, and it's deep, dark, and blue. It's really a stunning place. It may be even more so energetically because there's a ley line that connects Lake Titicaca to Machu Picchu and Pumapunku. And Pumapunku is where the Incas say that the gods created the world. It was a city complex that was started about 1,500 years ago, and then suddenly the people vanished. The architecture is so advanced that we cannot duplicate it today. It's kind of like Cusco and Sacsayhuaman in Peru too. It's all very mysterious. But then a lot of sacred places have a ton of unanswered questions about them. So would I go here again? In a heartbeat. And I'd stay longer. There's so much to see. Did it feel like pleasure here? I'd say so. We laughed a lot on that trip. And the next earth chakra is at Uluru in Australia. And I've researched Uluru, but I haven't actually been. COVID got in the way of my plans, and Australia was on a hard lockdown. But this is another site that's hard to get to too. Australia is enormous. It's basically some cities and then huge distances in between where there's practically nothing. And Uluru is in the middle of the outback. It's this big natural sandstone monolith that you can't miss. It's flat all around, and then you have this massive rock. In the Australian creation myths, the rainbow serpent crawled around the earth, creating the water holes, the mountains, and everything. And the caves, cliffs, and fissures in the rocks are what remains of the indigenous people's ancestors' incarnations here on earth. So it's a sacred place to the indigenous people. So when tourists used to come here and climb it, that just felt like outrageous to me. They do the same thing at the Devil's Tower, which is also sacred. I don't get it. And I'm not saying this, well, I am saying this. If there's anyone out there who hasn't considered this perspective, think about what it's like to desecrate a sacred place by disrespecting it for sport. Anyway, it's illegal to climb Uluru now, and I'm grateful for that. So I can't speak too much about this one because I haven't actually been here, but I've done some research and it looks like a proper pilgrimage. So I'd go. If I go, that's how I'll approach it, as this is a place on earth that is said to connect us with our life energy and sense of purpose. The fourth is the heart chakra, which is at Glastonbury in Shaftesbury, England. I haven't been to Shaftesbury, but I spent a lot of time in Glastonbury. Glastonbury is world famous for all things airy-fairy, as it's the mythological Avalon. It's where King Arthur's sword, Excalibur, was made and where he was taken to recover from wounds that he got in battle. King Arthur's tomb is also said to have been found at Glastonbury Abbey. Now, Glastonbury Abbey was said to be the first Christian church in Britain, and the original building was destroyed by fire in 1184. Back then, all churches had a collection of relics that pilgrims would come to see. That is how the churches would make their money. And Glastonbury Abbey had more than most, so it was a pilgrim's paradise. But without all the relics, which were lost in a fire, the church funds dried up. Fortunately, the monks found King Arthur's grave in an old cemetery, and voila, they were back in business as a thriving pilgrimage destination. Glastonbury is also famous in early Christianity for a few reasons. When Jesus died, they say that a rich man took his body down from the cross and put Jesus' dead body into his own tomb. And that man is Joseph of Arimathea. So Joseph of Arimathea is also said to have been Jesus' uncle. Anyway, Joseph was a businessman, a trader, whose business took him around the world, and he supposedly came to Cornwall in the tin trade, and maybe Jesus even went with him when he was young, and they stopped in Glastonbury. Jesus was said to have been at the last, Joseph. Joseph was said to have been at the Last Supper. And after Jesus and the disciples had finished eating, Joseph basically stole the cup from the table. And this is very odd behavior since people didn't have a lot of non-essential things laying around. And he's a rich man. Why would he need to? But that's how the story goes. I don't know. I think the cup definitely would have been missed, but that's the story. So back to Joseph taking Jesus' body off the cross. When Joseph and Nicodemus were doing that, blood dripped from Jesus' foot, and Joseph used the cup to catch some of it. They put Jesus' body in the tomb, and then Joseph went home and hid the cup. Joseph was arrested for taking the body, even though he had permission, and while in jail, Jesus shows up, tells him not to worry, and gives him food. Eventually, Joseph is released and decided to go back to England with some early Christians. And they established the first Christian church in England, made their way to Glastonbury. So, he's got the cup with him, had the blood inside, and he dips it into this water in this place called the Chalice Well today. And the water ran red. And the red color actually comes from the iron oxide in the earth, but it absolutely does have healing powers. If you go to the Chalice Well and stand in the water and drink it, oh my God. And there's a yew tree in the garden. And I didn't know anything about yews the first time I went. But each time, it was like, whoa, the energy is so strong. I had to stop and acknowledge it because it's a very powerful spot. And that's how I learned about yew trees. I'm like, what is making all of this energy like this? It was really, really crazy. And you don't have to meditate or anything. But you'll be so struck that you will stop at the awe of it. The energy is that strong. And there's another spring nearby. It's the White Spring. And this one's white because of calcium and is equally soothing and uplifting. But if you compare the two, it's like the yin and the yang. The Chalice Well is very strong and masculine and powerful. The White Well is very soft and soothing, and it's like a grotto in there. It's just wonderful. But old Joseph of Arimathea isn't done yet. One day when he was walking up the hill in the area, with his friends, and he said, "Let's sit and rest, for we are weary all." And he stuck his staff into the ground and forgot about it. When he went to get it the next day, it was stuck because it had taken root, and it grew into a tree that blossomed twice a year, once in the spring and once at Christmas. And that hill is now called Weary All Hill, and that tree is the Glastonbury thorn. The original tree was killed by vandals a long time ago, but I believe graftings from it still exist today. The jewel in Glastonbury's crown is Glastonbury Tor. A tor is a hill, and like Uluru, the hill is a natural hill, in a pretty flat area that's hard to miss. And this hill is said to be the portal to the underworld. So the fairy king would play tricks on people and snatch them and take them to the underworld. So this place was known for its magical energy way before the Christians got there. There were pagan churches on the top of that hill, and then Christian churches, and all that's left now is the bell tower of the Church of St. Michael. And Glaston sits on the Michael ley line, which I believe makes it especially juicy. So the energy here is soft and sweet and sneaks up on you. It's not a laughing energy really, but it's very uplifting. It's content, compassionate, and kind of the feeling that you're laughing inwards. And I would definitely go here anytime. The town itself is small and sleepy. The sidewalks roll up after 6 o'clock and all the tourist bus leaves. There's not a lot to do after that, but that's the best time to have the tour all to yourself, especially if there's a full moon. Just take a flashlight because it gets really dark and it's hard to find your way down once you're in the shadows of the trees. So the next chakra is Giza Pyramids, and this place is absolutely amazing. It's what kicked off my spiritual travel journeys. The throat chakra controls thoughts and feelings, and it opened up things in me that I didn't know were there. I found truths that I didn't know were hiding, and I blossomed a lot after every trip there, but mostly the first time. The thing I said about Egypt is that it always gives you what you need, even if that's not what you think you want, and that has always been true. Some lessons were joyful and easy, and some were not, but it never failed to give me what I needed. And it's hard to feel the energy of the pyramids because there's so many people swarming around. It's noisy and busy. So the best time to be there is at night, but it's fenced off now. You can't really go there at night, but you can take a camel ride under the desert near the pyramids, and the energy of them can be felt for miles away. So that's probably the best way to get personal with the pyramids nowadays. When I started going to Egypt, it was moderately ready for Westerners. Toilet paper was hit or miss. Hot water was hit or miss, but mostly it was okay. Now they've caught up with pretty much everywhere, and there's a lot more people here. So it's harder to get the feel of the character because there's a veneer of commercialism over everything, but you can still feel the wonderful vibe of the ancient and the modern, of the masculine and the feminine energies here, and I'd still give it a thumbs up. Now, the third eye isn't always in the same place, but right now it's in Glastonbury, and we've already talked about all the mystical things that are Glastonbury. And the last earth chakra is the crown chakra, which is in Tibet. And I haven't been here, so I can't share what that's like at all. It's out Mount Kailas, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, which is the most sacred mountain in the Himalayas, so I don't think a lot of people have been there. It makes sense, though, because I guess the crown is always the hardest thing to reach. I don't think you have to actually set foot there, though, to be there. You are everything. Everything is you. If you meditated on a photograph of it, I think you could easily access that energy. I just make sure that you're really grounded first. And maybe this is why I haven't done anything with it yet. So connecting with the Earth's chakras energies is like connecting with our own. These energies are everywhere. They're just more concentrated in some places than others. I think the balance of energy is more important than the strength. Imbalance creates dis-ease. So when I see people working on one chakra, well, I don't know that that's the wisest thing. It's like growing one big leg. It just doesn't work so well. It throws everything else off. So I'd experience it if you're interested, but if it's not practical, close your eyes and dream. Watch a video of the place that you're most drawn to. Get a sense of how it looks and feels, then close your eyes and open your heart. Call it in, and it'll come. That's what the stones at West Kennet Longbarrow, which are not too far from Stonehenge, told me. I was called to the stones by the stones. I had been there a year before, and they started talking to me in my dreams. And when I got there, I made a beeline to the stones and asked, "Grandfathers, why did you call me here?" And it said, "To tell you that you don't have to be here to be here." And that has saved me a lot of running around and money, let me tell you. I still enjoy being different places, but I won't have a fit like I used to because I can be anywhere, anytime. And so can you. So while you're exploring your animist lifestyle, explore the Earth's chakras from your mind palace. If that's not satisfying enough, take a trip. See what the wind feels like there. Smell the air. Hear the leaves. These are the world's power places. Why not? And if you feel called to travel with me, check out my travel website. I go to obscure places that aren't overrun with tourists and people mostly haven't heard of. We don't do the 50 people in a bus thing, so if that's your thing, that's not me. We're small group travel, intimate settings, emotional safety and vulnerability so we can experience what we're experiencing. It's been fun sharing the Earth's chakras with you. See y'all next week. Ciao.